Welcome to the Seller Roundtable e-commerce coaching and business strategies with Andy Arnott and Amy Wees.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Andy Arnott with
Amy Wees.
And this is Seller Roundtable number 91, and we have Don Henig on today. Thanks for being on, Don.
My pleasure. Thanks, Andy.
Hopefully, I stumbled over that last your last name there a little bit, but I think I got it.
I think you did good.
Thanks. So, Don, we always like to give people a little bit of background, kind of leading up to where you are today. So, as little or as much as you like, but we love to hear, where you grew up, where you were born and raised, all that kind of fun stuff, college, any school, any work, just your journey till today.
Oh man, well, I'll try to keep it short, but they opened up a lot there. I was born in Brooklyn, New York, and Brooklyn, everybody knows Brooklyn, but I was born in a little area called, not a little area, big part of Brooklyn called Bensonhurst, and in a little section of Bensonhurst called Gravesend Bay. So at the end of my street is where the Verrazano Bridge was. So the end of our street was the Verrazano Narrows, and you're looking at the bridge being built. And when the Verrazano opened up the first night, just a little side point, the whole 2 blocks that we were together, everybody got in their car. It was free to go over. We all had a big party, went over the Verrazano and just loved it. And we were the last block before Coney Island. So I went to school in Coney Island, and which again, everybody knows about Coney Island. But here's an interesting thing I just thought of today. My block in Brooklyn, as crazy as this is going to sound, was the last block to be paved. We actually lived on a dirt road in Brooklyn in the 60s. That's not that long ago. It was crazy. Anyway, a lot of fun. Did that, moved out to Long Island, started different businesses as a kid, always made a lot of money, always did well, became a financial planner, my own business, built it very well, bought my first house and, all that as a financial planner, learned about the mortgage industry. I started a mortgage company. Within 2 years, I was one of the largest in New York State. After 10 years, I sold the mortgage company. I started a mortgage broker franchise. 3 years later, sold that. I had 760 franchisees nationwide. Started a soccer publication, looked at kind of like your situation. What do you do when you sell your businesses and you're sitting on the sideline? What do I love to do? I love to be on the fields with the kids. So I started a soccer publication. Never did anything like it. 24 full newspaper pages. I was the only employee, did the whole thing, very profitable from month 1 on, and sold that. Got into technology and did a bunch of technology things, back into the mortgage business, built one of the largest mortgage companies in the country. We were the 5th largest direct to consumer. So basically an internet-based lender in the nation. Quicken Loans was my #1 competitor back then. And I also ran the 6th largest wholesale lender in the nation. After that, and that was a publicly held company, 7,000 employees. I went out on my own again and did some house flipping, 300 houses in 18 months. All along that time, I started an entertainment company on the side. And from scratch, we did 8 feature-length films with all the biggest names, from Tom Cruise to Mark Ruffalo to Natalie Portman, on and on and on. And a Broadway show called Rock of Ages, which ended up, I think, is the 26th longest running play of all time. Anyway, long story short, I've done a bunch of things. I retired 3 times in my career. This last time I retired, I took 5 years, and I thought I was done. And I met up with an old friend of mine from the mortgage industry from many years ago. And we started talking about different things. And I kept telling him, no, I'm not doing it. My life is too good. I'm completely done. And well, he ended up bringing up Amazon and Amazon sellers. And that catches my interest because I love helping people grow businesses. And I particularly love helping young people, whether it be in business or in life in general. So I don't need to be paid to do those things. I love doing those things. So he caught my interest. And we looked at, Amazon sellers. We went out and talked to a few and found that even the smallest ones that I talked to, and I spoke to them personally. I remember the first one had less than $3,000 of inventory. And before you know it, I was, my accountants were putting me in touch with these guys and women. And the next one, was like $100,000, and the next one was over $1 million. So all of them had one thing in common. They all needed money to grow. So we said, all right, perfect. So we looked at the lending options. We didn't like anything from a growth standpoint. The lending options out there are fine for people that need to, the working capital to get by week to week and such, or month to month. But to really grow the business, they didn't work once you run the numbers. So we came up with this unique idea of, instead of lending money to sellers, we will actually invest in the seller. And here's the deal. And it sounds crazy. It sounds too good to be true, but this is the deal. We will double your capital with no interest, no required monthly payments, no loss of ownership, and no personal guarantee. So that's kind of like the anti-loan loan. And all we do is we take a small percentage of profits as a percentage of how much money we have in the business. So that's what we did. And we went out, we raised $100 million to invest in sellers. So the systems are all built. Everything is rolling. We're busy as could be, as you could imagine. And it's a lot of fun. It's very unique and a lot of fun. So that's my story.
Awesome. I love it. So I haven't been to New York in a long, long time, but I had cousins who lived in Livingston, New Jersey. So we would take trips to the city. I need to know if you're a Yankees or a Mets fan. That's very important to me. Or
Mets fan.
All right. So that's interesting because it seems like I don't want to say old school, but the old school New Yorkers are Mets fans, and the Yankees are kind of for the whippersnappers, right? So
no, they're the followers,
Yeah. So I love that. I love the underdog team. I love them. We went to go see the Yankees. That was.
Of course,
my cousins, that they were fans of the Yankees, but it was still always fun to go out. Yankee Stadium. I think they had built the new stadium back when I went. I don't know if it's another new stadium after that, but
no, it's just one after that.
Yeah, so it was in the late 90s, I think, or 90s, somewhere around there. And we had a blast. And so I'm a San Francisco Giants fan, but watching the Yankees, it's the energy in that stadium is unbelievable.
Wait till you see this year for the Mets, my friend.
Yeah, all right. I'm rooting for them.
And just to stay with that for one more second,
please.
With the Giants, as a kid, we would always go to the games when the Giants came into town, because my father was a New York Giants fan.
Oh,
my
awesome.
mother was a Dodgers fan. But with the Dodgers, with Juan Marichal and Willie McCovey and Willie Mays, I mean, we went and saw them live all the time. It was magnificent. Loved it.
Yeah, the modern rivalry between the Dodgers and the Giants is a lot of fun. And here in Idaho, there's such an influx of people from California. So I'm seeing tons of LA hats and tons of Seattle Seahawks, because I'm also a 49ers fan. Growing up in Hawaii, you had limited options in terms of what was public, what was on TV. So that's what I was fans of. So that's a lot of fun. But something else really interesting, we'll have to go back to this because I know Amy wants to talk some Amazon. But my wife and I have done a bunch of live-in flips. She got a real estate license recently, and we're starting to do some investments and stuff like that. So and she actually just told me the other day, like, hey, why don't we start a mortgage company? So so Don, I might be emailing you for advice since you're deep in that world.
Tell her not to do it.
Oh, really? Huh?
There's lots of money, but lots of risk, and you need tons of money to start that.
Yeah, and the other thing too is just with the way the world is right now, that on the real estate side of things, it's so up in the air. Everything is really, but I mean, it's interesting. But we're also in Idaho, which, I mean, it has such a huge influx here. It's unbelievable. So anyway, those are things we might have to come back to if we have time. So
can I just stay with that for one more second?
Oh, please.
Because there's tons of people in the same boat as you, and you're in such a great market. If you just think about this is one bit of advice that I would give you and anybody else. Buy one house as an investment, just one, a single family, two family, whatever it is, cheapest thing you can get if that's all it is. And then 2 or 3 years later, buy another. And 3 or so years, buy another.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, by the time you're ready to retire, you're going to have 20 houses throwing off income, and you've built your retirement. It's done. You never have to think about it again.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing coming from California is, our house price that we sold there was, so we actually downgraded when we came here. We went from 11 acres in California to 1 acre, and now we're on a fourth of an acre in a neighborhood, but our mortgage is nothing. And then we took pretty much every penny that we got from the sale of our California house, and we have an offer out for something cash. Like you said, it's a multi-unit, house. We're going to do that. And then we're going to refi it out because we're buying it cash. We'll fix it up, refi it out, and then we're going to do it all over again. So, we're excited to do that.
If you finance it within a short period of time, whether it be 90 or 120 days, it counts as a purchase. So you can take out more money than if you refinance.
Oh, that's interesting. Very cool. All right. Great advice, Amy. I'm sorry. That was all selfish stuff there.
See, I sent Andy a message and I was like, you're going to like him.
That's great. That's great.
So, it's all good. Don and I have had the pleasure of talking previously, and just, he's just a wealth of knowledge about so many things. And, Don, when you're telling your story, I just wanted to pop in and be like, so in other words, you're saying that basically you've never done anything in business, right? You've never built anything. So, really cool, your background, and really interesting way of how you got into helping e-commerce based businesses. So let's talk a little bit about what you guys actually do. So this is new. There's a lot of funding companies out there. You can take, so if we're just talking about like how we get money for our business, for inventory, stuff like that, you can take a loan from Amazon. I know right now mine is like, it says something like, here, we've got $15,000, you're pre-approved, click here, you've got that. You've got credit cards. We use credit cards sometimes to fund our inventory. If you're really good, you can get a bank loan, but that's usually out of the reach of a lot of new sellers because they don't have any business credit yet. There's a few other like capital companies that are like first in, first out type of capital. So there's all kinds of different
factors.
Yeah, there's factors. Factors are, for those of you who never heard of a factor, that's if you have a purchase order already, you can go and get that inventory paid for ahead of time by using what's called a factor. So, but we Amazon sellers, we e-commerce businesses, we get kind of stuck. We get wrapped up in our capital sometimes. Our capital gets tied up in inventory.
Absolutely.
So you guys saw this issue, you saw this problem, and talk a little bit more about that, about how, not necessarily what a CREAMY does yet, because we're going to get there, but what problems were you seeing in the traditional lending? Because you could have offered that. You've got all kinds of experience. What were you seeing with that?
Well, I think there's a couple of things there. First, what we saw with the sellers looking to grow. And again, I remember talking to one that had under $3,000 of inventory, and the second one had just like $5,000. And the second one was a woman. And I asked her, well, what are your goals? And I swear to God, she said to me, well, I want to make $1 million. And I said, wow, that's great. She said, actually, I want to sell $1 million first. Then I want to make $1 million. I said, okay, that's getting a little bit more realistic. And I said, so how long do you think it's going to take you? And she said, a year. And I'm thinking, and this is not a young person either, by the way. And she was very knowledgeable. This is a technology engineer. Okay. Very, very smart person. So I'm looking at this and I'm saying, you're starting with $5,000. You're never going to get to $1 million. It's going to, not never, it's going to take time. It's going to take a good amount of time. And if you need money to live, which she did, you're never going to get there. Because if you're making even 20% net profit, so you're going to get $1,000, what's your rent? You're not going to get there. That's tough. But if you could, if that $1,000 paid for everything, and we were able to give you another $5,000, and now that $1,000 could stay in your business, another $5,000 to match you, and that $1,000 stays in the business, Now, month number 2, instead of you starting with 5,000, now you have 5,000 from us. So 10 plus $1,000 of profit that you kept in the business. Boom. In a month, you have $11,000 to grow. You're on your way. You're going to get there a lot faster if you have 11,000 than 5,000 and so forth. So, that's what made us think about it. Like, there were some unrealistic dreams, and we felt we could help make some of these dreams really happen. And so when we ran the numbers on this, it's unbelievable how good our program works for a seller who really wants to grow. For a seller that just wants to move along and is happy with everything, and there's other options. But for somebody who really wants to grow, there's nothing better. Because think about it. If you're not taking money out every month to make a monthly payment, you can grow. If you're taking money out to make a monthly payment, it's very hard to grow. So that's what we saw. We just wanted to help people. I did the spreadsheet, and I called my partner. I said, oh my God, this is ridiculous for the seller. This is unbelievable. And it's interesting because that's where we looked at it first. We wanted to make sure that whatever we do is great for the seller. So then we did it, and I did the spreadsheet for us. And I called them again, and I said, oh my God, this is great for us too. So if the seller does really well, we do really well. If the seller does poorly, we do poorly. If the seller doesn't make any money, we make no money. So we're taking all the risk. Anyway, that's what we did.
So I think it's so interesting, and we're going to get into exactly what that means, and I love how your example was somebody who just had $1,000 in inventory, because that is 99.9% of new sellers. Yeah. These are the people that are trying to get their businesses going, and they have the dream of being able to leave their job. But it's hard, often we tell them, if you're starting a private label, that's going to be tough to leave your job. You're not going to get that money back right away because you need to reinvest. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to break even in the beginning when you're launching because you need to pay for advertising, stuff like that to get your products going. You might have made a mistake in the choice of product or something like that, or the market could have changed. Like who could have thought of COVID, all these people in the travel industry, right? So I love that your example was a seller with $1,000 in inventory.
She actually had 5,000.
Okay, $5,000 in inventory, which that most people start with under $10,000.
Yep.
And they are trying to scale from there. So I love that you guys are in that market where you're not only helping bigger sellers scale, but you're also helping smaller sellers scale.
Yep.
So
and we do that on purpose, Amy. That was a discussion because, the Wall Street partners that we have that gave us the $100 million, they said to us, why are you going so low? You should make your minimum maybe $100,000. It's going to be so much more efficient. And they're right, 100% right. And we actually said to them, we want to go low because we want to help the smaller guy grow, not just the big guy grow. We want to help them all. And if we can get 10,000 small guys, I'm happy with that too. And no lender in a million years is going to come do what we're going to do because you have to have systems and it's a pain in the neck. But to see somebody like our first client, they had like $20,000, a retired couple who just lost their retirement, without getting into their story. And about a year with our money, they increased their sales 6-fold and their profit 8-fold. It was unbelievable. But they literally said, this is life-changing. And we never could have done it without it because that's all the money they had.
But Don, it takes more than to just give somebody some money, right?
I agree.
Because, if you give somebody money and it seems like a big risk to start with newer sellers, right? That might not know what they're doing or know, how to run a business.
Yep.
So how do you guys help them be more successful? Like, what are some of the fundamentals you're hoping are in place before you give them money, right?
Yeah, it's a few different things. Going back to that one that had like $20,000, they were, again, an older couple who were retired, and they had run their own businesses. So they understood business. They understood finance. They just didn't have money, and they were doing wholesale. So they had some great products, really terrific products. They just needed more money to grow. So that was pretty simple. For others, it's a lot of other things. I'll give you an example. A younger guy, really wonderful guy, who also was trying to grow, but couldn't get out of his own way, if you will. Like, you have to get up and go to work. You have to get up and make it happen. You have to really, have a plan. And sometimes people come into the Amazon world and think, this is a gimme. I put some money down, I make a bunch of money, and I'm done. And that's not the way it is. So literally every Friday, he and I would have a call, and it was a motivational type of call, and it was an ass kick call. And, because I really care, it's really what it comes down to. So it's things like that. We talk about the businesses. We talk about what's going on in the seller's world, what how their current products are doing. We review their inventory in our own way, different from anything else, and we explain to them why this is better than that. We talk to them about turn times and how they can actually turn a profit, as opposed to buying 2 years worth of inventory. Turn your inventory as fast as you can. You're going to make more money. And, most people don't understand that. But, when you come from a business background, as we do, it becomes very clear. So we built spreadsheets to show them exactly how quickly they can make money and how they can make more money by turning it faster, even by getting rid of, old products. So, one guy, literally, he had some, I remember they were headsets, and they just weren't selling for anything. So we said to him, why don't you get rid of these? Just dump them. He goes, well, I'm going to take a loss on those. And we said, okay, so take a loss. He said, well, I'm worried about what you guys are going to do, meaning accrue me. What do you mean? Well, are you going to shut me down because I'm going to lose money? I said, well, this is one product. So we built a spreadsheet to show him, and you can literally plug in the numbers however you want. And if I remember correctly, it was basically how much the product cost, what percentage you were going to lose, and how long at that new price would it take to sell those that inventory. And then put your ROI in, your monthly ROI for your other products. So if you were to take that money out and redeploy it, how long would it take you to re-earn the money that you lost? And in his case, in that specific example, he was going to sell it over 3 months. And it was altogether going to take, I think, from day one to, breaking even to having all his money back was either 6 or 7 months. And then then you're golden.
It's like paying interest on a credit card, and you don't realize that your interest payments are going to be more than, whatever that thing that you bought with that credit card is worth.
Right.
So I love that you have processes to kind of help onboard sellers. If somebody's looking to get into your program where you're going to help them, what are you hoping that they have in place? So these new sellers, especially if they're a new seller, or if they're maybe have a couple of products, but some of them might be duds, whatever, right? And they're wondering, like, should I even bother calling Don up and having a conversation? What are you hoping they're coming to you with when they're looking for help?
Well, the one main thing that we're hoping for and looking for is that they have a plan for growth. So they may come to us and say, yeah, I've got these 4 products. This one's, no good at all. And I know that, and I made this mistake, and, I bought this color. I never should have bought that. Or I made it in polyester instead of cotton, but now this one's in cotton, and you could see how it's selling. And they know their business. They understand their business. So we've done the research, and now I need money to build this product out and get these variations off of that product. And beautiful. Now that seller, look, we're taking the risk. We don't know that they're going to be very successful, but we make that assumption. And like everything, Amy, you know the deal. I don't care what business you're in. Pretty much anything you ever do, whatever you think is going to happen is not going to happen. You're going to start down that path. And when you're starting down that path, you don't know what's going to be in front of you. You don't see the bumps in the road. You just can't. You don't see the windows that are going to open, the doors that are going to open, that you're going to maneuver down that path called a business, and you're going to figure it out. And that's what people do. And so, that's what we look for. We love having these conversations, and we learn an awful lot about, their businesses and about them as individuals. And then truthfully, we root for them. We give them money and we're like cheering. We just can't wait to see them succeed.
Thanks for tuning in to part 1 of this episode. Join us every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for live Q&A and bonus content after the recording at sellerroundtable.com. Sponsored by the ultimate software tool for Amazon sales and growth, sellerseo.com and amazingathome.com.